is one of the closest known associates of President Putin. Now, not only yachts, Italian administration have also appropriated villas, luxury properties across the country. A villa worth $18.5 million was seized in Sardinia. The property is owned by Russian oligarch Elisha Usmanov. Russian parliamentary member Oleg Savchenko's 17th century house near Tuscan city Lucca was also attached, in addition to undisclosed number of properties valued at around 8 million euros that were confiscated in Como. Italian banks, meanwhile, have been instructed to urgently communicate all measures taken to freeze the assets of people and entities placed on the EU list. The CSL union in the country has now warned that the sanctions could negatively impact the economy. This as US and its allies mull further sanctions against Russia. Russia's attack on Ukraine triggered one of the biggest refugee crises in Europe. More than 1 million Ukrainians have left their country in the last 10 days, and as we speak, thousands are making their way to western borders, fearing for their lives. And our correspondent, Anas Malik, is in Lviv. He has sent us this report on how the situation stands at the city's railway station. Take a look.
Well, I'm at the railway station of Lviv, very near to it, and there are thousands who are leaving from here. If I can just show you as well, you can probably see hundreds and hundreds of people just leaving from here with their baggage, going towards the railway station, and in order to flee to safety. Very near I am, and there are lines of cars as well. It takes about 12 to 14 minutes to travel just a kilometer to get to the railway station. So it actually explains the magnitude of traffic, people going towards the railway station.
This is the Lviv railway station. It is situated some 60 kilometers from the Polish border. It is famous for its magnificent architecture and artwork. But during these times, when Ukraine is fighting for its right to exist, the Lviv station has now turned into a transit point for the families fleeing war from other parts of Ukraine.
Well, I'm standing at this central railway station of Lviv, where you can see behind me there are thousands of migrants from elsewhere in the country flocking in at this railway station. These are mostly migrants from the center, north and the eastern parts of the country, the areas which are under attack by Russia, and they are fleeing who are here to the western side of the country, that is to Lviv, where I am, in order to flee to safety, because from here onwards they would be going towards Poland and other countries in order to flee to safety.
Crowds of people, mostly women and children, are waiting to board their trains. They leave behind the men in their lives, their homes, their motherland.
In Kharkiv, it's like a really hell now because it's a really hard situation because of bombing and a lot of this stuff. Because my boyfriend now serving in army for a second time, because he was a volunteer for the first time and now he need to go back to fight for our countries. And we are waiting for my mom, which trying to get escape from Kharkiv, and it's really a terrible situation.
Those arriving at the station far outnumber those who are leaving. There are long lines that stretch from the platform tunnels to outside the station building. Lviv, the city of trams and cobblestones, has become the staging area for humanitarian aid. While many Ukrainians defend their nation, battle the Russian troops in the rest of the country, the people in Lviv are extending a helping hand to those in need. Makeshift tents have been set up. Volunteers are making food for thousands waiting for their trains to return to safety.
Well, I'm standing outside the Lviv Central Railway Station, and it's a makeshift city that has been developed. It's an army of volunteers that is preparing food, that is giving out food. There are relief shelters, medical shelters that are around, and wherever you can see, till wherever you can go, till wherever your vision goes, you'd see only heads, and that explains the magnitude of the situation. The tragedy is so big that the people are shifting, are moving from their comfort areas towards Lviv, towards the western city of Lviv, so that they can feel relatively safe in here. Anas Malik in Lviv, Ukraine, for Beyond World is One.
WION reports from the heart of the action.
So I'm inside one of the bomb shelters.
Russian forces pound Ukrainian cities. Ukrainians put up stiff resistance. Russian troops close in on capital Kyiv.
You can see behind me there are thousands of migrants from elsewhere in the country flocking in at this railway station.
Ukraine under attack. WION on Ground Zero. Continuous coverage on WION.
Now, as Russia continues to unleash its military offensives in Ukraine, thousands of residents are fleeing their homes to escape the violence. And as the situation worsens, UN agency says that the number of people fleeing the war could potentially rise to 1.5 million by the end of the weekend. Multiple fires have been reported from in and around Irpin as Russian air raids continued on the city. Irpin, which is just 20 kilometers away from Kiev, has found itself on the front line between Russian and Ukrainian forces over the past few days. Authorities have reported heavy damage in residential buildings and roads due to repeated air raids by the Russian side. Meanwhile, thousands of residents in Irpin have fled the city to escape the violence. This as Russian troops continued their attack. Local authorities and Ukrainian forces were seen helping the elderly as they scrambled to find a safer space. In the Ukrainian city of Chernihiv, a Russian military plane was reportedly shot down by the Ukrainian forces on Saturday. Several houses were burnt down when the plane crashed into the residential area. Authorities have reportedly captured the Russian pilot following the incident, and a video has now emerged that shows destruction inside the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant in Ukraine. The video showed the floor covered in glass shattered from shattered windows, along with dust, rubble. The nuclear facility was attacked by the Russian troops in the early hours of Friday, which led to a fire breaking out in a building in the outside perimeter of the plant. The fire was later doused, following which it was confirmed that there has been no leak of radioactive elements from the plant. Now take a look at what's generating interest across our social media platforms. Now, Russia intensified the attack in Kiev as the invasion entered its 11th day. In Kiev, sirens continue to ring as more troops gather outside the Ukrainian capital. You can check out our YouTube channel for more on that. With air raid sirens ringing throughout the day, people in Ukraine, they've gotten used to bunkers or underground bomb shelters. You can head to our Facebook page to discover a ground report on what bunkers in Lviv are like. According to UN monitoring mission, at least 351 civilians have been killed in Ukraine. The Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights said most of the casualties had occurred due to shelling from rocket launchers. The UN agency said that the real figures are considerably higher, as several reports are still to be corroborated, including in the Volnovakha, where Russia declared it had opened an evacuation corridor. And trending on Twitter, India with France has pitched to become a hub for maintenance, repair and overhaul of Rafale fighter jets. The Indian proposal comes amid the government's Atmanirbhar Bharat policy, under which local manufacturing of defense equipment has been the focus. Taliban government in Afghanistan reportedly slammed Pakistan for donating inedible wheat and praised India for sending better quality. A remark that has led to a war of words on Twitter. Social media videos showed Taliban official complaining about the quality of Pakistani wheat. More on our Instagram handle for this. The Russian invasion threatens to displace an estimated 7 million people. Almost 1.5 million people have been displaced already, with the majority crossing over the border into neighboring countries of Romania, Poland and Slovakia. Europe's response to the refugee crisis so far has been swift and efficient. And this realization is not lost on Ukrainian refugees, even the kids who are too young to fully grasp what is happening. A little girl at a camp in Serot expressed her gratitude to the president of Romania. Here's a report.
E nevoie de ceva, vă adresați oamenilor de aici care vă ajută.
Честно, вас обнять можно? Ну, честно, такой добрый
Vă doresc numai bine. Oamenii noștri încearcă să vă ajute cât se poate de bine. Străduiesc să ofere ce...
And with that, we call to wrap on this edition of the News Bulletin. News and updates continue on the other side on Beyond World is One. Stay tuned.
अरे गया नहीं अभी तक? गाड़ी की सर्विस कब से ड्यू है यार? ये थोड़ी जाएंगे कहीं, ये तो गाड़ी की सर्विस करवाने के लिए कहीं जाने की जरूरत नहीं है। चिल, कोई गड़बड़ नहीं है। गो मैकेनिक पर पाए एक्सपर्ट कार सर्विसेज, 50 पॉइंट इंस्पेक्शन और 3 महीने की अनकंडीशनल वारंटी। डाउनलोड करें इंडिया का नंबर 1 कार सर्विसेज ऐप गो मैकेनिक।
Go mechanic.
अरे गया नहीं अभी तक? गाड़ी की सर्विस कब से ड्यू है यार? ये थोड़ी जाएंगे कहीं, ये तो गाड़ी की सर्विस करवाने के लिए कहीं जाने की जरूरत नहीं है। चिल, कोई गड़बड़ नहीं है। गो मैकेनिक पर पाए एक्सपर्ट कार सर्विसेज, 50 पॉइंट इंस्पेक्शन और 3 महीने की अनकंडीशनल वारंटी। डाउनलोड करें इंडिया का नंबर 1 कार सर्विसेज ऐप गो मैकेनिक।
Go mechanic.
Joe Biden, now the 46th president of the United States, has a full plate in front of him.
Afghanistan has been the heart of American military power.
In a clear warning to China, India's
military has now taken control of the country for 1 year.
What was happening inside the virology lab in Wuhan?
one ship was able to freeze global trade.
A traditional recipe, and it's really very delicious.
code red for humanity. The alarm bells are deafening. Wildfires, floods, and hurricanes. Extreme climate events warn of impending doom. Is the world heading towards a climate catastrophe? Watch WION's Climate Tracker weekdays at 12 p.m. GMT, 5:30 p.m. IST.
You don't know how to fix the holes in our ozone layer. You don't know how to bring the salmon back up a dead stream. You don't know how to bring back an animal now extinct. And you can't bring back the forest that once grew where there is now a desert.
You have ignored us in the past and you will ignore us again. We have run out of excuses and we are running out of time.
Show us your faithfulness. Show us your trustworthiness. Show us your honesty. Prove us wrong. We desperately need you to prove us wrong. God help us all. If you fail to prove us wrong, God help us.
One trillion species. 7.8 billion humans. 1.9 million species extinct. One planet. Where are we heading? What should we do? Watch Climate Tracker, only on WION. World is one.
From the world's most volatile region, conflicts over faith and boundaries. Stories of death, destruction, despair, and hope. WION brings you to the heart of the action. Incisive analysis, unrivaled perspective, and exclusive ground reports. Watch West Asia Post every Friday, 8:30 p.m. IST. Francis.
It is day 11th of the attack in Ukraine. The coverage continues. We are glad you're watching WION Wild is One. Welcome back and thank you very much for joining us at this hour. My name is Eric Njoka. Let's begin with the top headlines. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky raises alarm over a possible attack on the historic port city of Odessa. Calling it a historic military crime, Zelensky says Russian forces are preparing to bombard the port city on the Black Sea coast. Russian troops close in on the Ukrainian capital city. Moscow releases footage of its airborne troops near Kyiv. Over 1.5 million people have fled Ukraine since Russia's invasion. United Nations calls it the fastest growing refugee crisis since World War II. Ukrainian authorities make another attempt at civilian evacuation in the city of Mariupol that is witnessing mounting Russian offensive. Ukraine armed forces say over 11,000 Russian troops have been killed since February 24th, when forces from Moscow led an offensive towards Kyiv. And the Indian women's cricket team begins its quest for a maiden World Cup title in style at Mount Maunganui. The Indian women extend their perfect record against Pakistan to 11-0 in ODIs after winning by 107 runs.
Russia's relentless assault continues. Ukraine offers fierce resistance. WION brings you all sides of the story.
I'm the reserve officer of Ukraine. Many people in the country are not even really aware of what's going on.
Ukrainians are not happy.
Leading voices come together on WION.
He was deceived by his own propaganda.
I am not leaving, I'm not surrendering.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has once again spoken to his American counterpart Joe Biden. The two leaders discussed the latest development in Ukraine. This comes as Russian troops continue to inch towards Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. In the phone call, the two leaders discussed issues of financial support for Ukraine and the continuation of financial sanctions against Russia. Zelensky urged the West to ramp up military assistance to the war-torn country, including adequate supply of warplanes and other artillery. Biden, meanwhile, has urged the Congress to provide a $10 million aid to Ukraine to help the Zelensky government fight the conflict. U.S. State Department, meanwhile, issued a message on behalf of President Biden for the people in Russia. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, meanwhile, met Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba at the Polish-Ukrainian border in a show of solidarity against the Russian invasion. The high-stakes meeting came as Moscow and Kyiv accused each other of violating the temporary ceasefire in the region. The two leaders spoke for nearly an hour at a border crossing full of refugees fleeing the violence. Blinken and Kuleba discussed the provision of weapons supply to Ukraine and the latest campaign to isolate Moscow internationally. Blinken assured Kuleba of